Leaders from 33 of the country's biggest sports have joined forces to oppose new gambling legislation that they say will destroy community sport as we know it. The online casino gambling bill intends to sell licences to 15 offshore gambling platforms. However, sports organisations say the bill makes no provision to supply them with a cut, unlike other licensed gambling. Sport currently receives about $170 million a year from pokie proceeds, and it's feared once online casinos are legal, the size of those grants will diminish as more gamblers move online. Martin Snedden is the board chair at Cycling New Zealand and is with us now. Hi, Martin.
Morning, Ryan.
Good to see you.
You too.
So this is potentially a big deal?
Yeah, it's a huge deal, really. For 50 years, there has been cross-party political support as a quid pro quo for the legalisation of gambling, that proceeds from that would go into community, including sport. So at the moment, there's about 350 odd million a year that, say, the Class 4 pokie trusts would put into community, and about half of that goes to sport. All of it goes to amateur sport, all of it goes either directly to the clubs or through regional organisations that are set up to support the clubs. The reality in our life is that online's taking over retail everywhere, and if what is happening at the moment with the pokies is that they gradually disappear, if there's no provision in this new legislation to protect money going into community, including sport, then it won't be long before all of that money disappears.
The 350 million?
350, of which half of which goes into sport, half of which goes into other great community causes.
So I guess it depends on the uptake, doesn't it, of online offshore gambling products, how much more attractive they are to people than your pokies.
Yeah, so just look at your normal life. I mean, everything is going online at the moment. Now, there were some figures yesterday talking about the growth of online globally, and it's just exponentially every year. It's just shooting up, and it's enormous. And as that happens, obviously, what's happening with the pokies is going to be badly affected.
So what do you do then?
Well, I think the very first thing is that the government carries on what it did in the Gambling Act in 2003, which as a purpose of this legislation says that community must benefit from proceeds. Then what it should do is actually talk to us and understand the problem. This is what hasn't happened. There's been no consultation, no warning to us. I accidentally came across this 6 or 7 weeks ago, suddenly realised there was a problem, jumped into it, got the sports sector organised, and we're injecting our own voice into this. But government shouldn't have waited that long. The Department of Internal Affairs should have done their work. They should have briefed government, but they didn't.
So Brooke Van Velden, who's the Minister, she's put out given a statement to us saying, I appreciate that sports clubs play a significant role in our communities, blah, blah, blah. Many of these receive the funding that you're talking about, Martin. It is not yet known what impact the regulation of online casinos will have on the availability of funding for sports clubs through the Class 4 societies. So in other words, we're not sure yet what will happen.
Yeah, she's saying she doesn't know because they haven't done the analysis. You only have to look at the TAB when they went online 5 or 6 years ago, Lotto when they did the same thing. You look at Australian research which tells you the answer to this. You just use common sense. It's obviously going to impact on it. Are we going to wait 3 years until what's blindingly obvious becomes reality and there's been damage caused? Or do we actually look ahead at this and say, this is obvious, let's find a solution now? And that solution has to be something that looks into the future and future-proofs direction of funds from international operators into community, including sport. International operators that'll be paying a bit of tax to the government and taking all the profits offshore. How's that helping New Zealand?
Martin, appreciate you coming on this morning. Thank you. Martin Snedden, board chair at Cycling New Zealand. And the statement that I mentioned earlier includes this from Brooke Van Velden. She has told us that online casino operators will be required to pay fees to cover the costs of running the scheme, tax to the Crown and contribute to the problem gambling levy, which funds gambling harm support services. But she says it is not proposing they also be required to make community returns, as the Department of Internal Affairs has advised funding community organisations through the proceeds of gambling creates a perverse incentive to increase gambling activity in order to increase revenue for these organisations.